Welcome, baseball fans, to Week 12 of Major League Baseball Power Rankings. We've had a lot of excitement this week. We've had some teams have had some very bad weeks, some teams have very poor weeks, but this is the week before the halfway point. This is Week 12. Next week is Week 13. There's 26 weeks in the season, so lots and lots to look forward to, especially with the All-Star game coming up. So, let's go ahead and get on into it. For any newcomers, quick review. The power rankings are based primarily on points, in which you get 3 for 9-inning win, 0 for 9-inning loss, and if a team is able to take you to extra innings, they now take one of the points for forcing that overtime. And if you couldn't hold them off for 9 innings, then you sacrifice a point for it. Now, I say a point because the winner in overtime is still going to get 2 points because they did rise victorious, but now the loser still walks away with a point versus 1. Having said that, there are still tiebreakers from time to time, like here. What do you do there? Well, you've got 2 classes of fans. One that love a good offense and one that love a good defense. I'm on the defense side. I love a good pitching performance, but I also enjoy homers, so there you go. So, in that case, what I do is I take the run differential, RD run differential, and I take the runs scored for that week, and I subtract runs given up that week to get run differential. If you look at run differential on MajorLeagueBaseball.com, you'll see it for the whole season. That's why these numbers don't match up to that, because this is mathematically squeezing out only the last 7 games since last Sunday. Because I have to work on Monday, I don't have the luxury of filming this at the end of the weekend series, so I do my cutoffs on Saturday, film Sunday, and then enjoy the rest of the games with all of you throughout the week. Having said that, so from Sunday through Saturday, our run differentials are our first tiebreakers, and on occasion, when those are tiebreakers, we have additional levels which we'll get into when the occasion arises. So, getting started. Welcome, everybody. Number 30, Baltimore. This is a team with whom did not have the worst week, but not far from it. They went 1-6 in their road trip to Oakland and Seattle, getting swept by Oakland and dropping 2 out of 3 to Seattle. This is a team that will probably be perennial 30-place team this year because they are rebuilding, and unlike other teams that are rebuilding, they haven't shown many opportunities to actually show they can hold their own. Now, granted, yes, they're in a division with Tampa, Boston, and New York. I get that. But you just took a West Coast swing and got your butts whooped. Yes, I get it. West Coast swings for East Coast teams is harder than playing any other round. I get that. But when you can see Tampa, Boston, and New York make their West Coast trips and still win games, what's your excuse, Baltimore? Come on. You know, you had an abysmal week, and it's not like Oakland and Seattle are unbeatable, okay? They're not top-ranked teams. They are sometimes decent teams, but they're very easily humbled by higher caliber teams. Having said that, sorry, Baltimore fans, but you're going to be in 30th spot unless they get their act together. Coming in, number 29, the Detroit Tigers. This is a team that also did not have a great week, but because they only played 5 games, going 1-4 wasn't as bad as 1-6. They go into Pittsburgh and split the 2 games, 1-1. They go into Cleveland and they drop 2 games. Granted, it's Detroit. They're rebuilding. I get that. But you still have to go into a divisional game and at least show face. When you go into Cleveland, you can't get 1 game. How are you going to improve? Yeah, you're showing how weak you are as a team. But I've seen potential out of you. I've seen you take on teams and win games. I just haven't seen it consistently. So, because of that, you get to remain down at number 29. Coming in at number 28, the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City had a slightly above average week, going 4 wins, 3 losses at Seattle and a home against Minnesota. They went into Seattle, took 2 out of 3. Hello, remember I was just talking to you about more about going into West Coast trips and not doing well. Kansas City is not an East Coast team, granted, but they still went and won 2 out of 3 in Seattle. Are you listening, Baltimore? Thank you. Okay. Then, of course, you go into divisional rival, and what do you know? They didn't win the series, but they held their own in the sense that they at least got a win from a divisional opponent. And to that, I tip my cap. You save face a little bit. If it was a 4-game series, maybe you take 2 out of 4. I don't know. But the fact that you didn't get swept going into Minnesota, hang your hat on that. It's something to build on. Good job. Okay? Coming number 27, another rebuilding team, a bunch of Hall of Famer sons with the Toronto Blue Jays. Unlike Kansas City, had a slightly below average week going with 3 wins and 4 losses. They had a little bit tougher task because they had home games against the LA Angels and they dropped 3 out of 4, and then they go into Boston. Now, granted, you did save face. You split the series against Boston in Boston. Good job, Toronto. You definitely need to make sure that even if you have an abysmal turnout against a West Coast team, you're still saving face against your divisional rivals. The reason being is you're playing 18 games per divisional rival. Those games add up to at least a third of your season, if not half their season. So with that on the line, it's good to at least save face if you can't win. Okay? You only face LA once at home, once away, because they're in a different division, and even more so with interleague games, where you only see them once a year. If you drop those games, you brush yourself off and you move on. Divisional games, gotta win those. Coming in number 26, the Miami Marlins. I've made some fun with the Miami Marlins, calling them by the Miami standards, because they are a team that went over new ownership and they flushed all their top talent and are rebuilding from within. Having said that, they still have some veteran presence that are of decent caliber, Curtis Granderson and others. And they are actually doing a fairly decent job of climbing ever so slowly out of the cellar. Look at where they are now. They haven't reached this high all season long. Now, Miami had a slightly above average week, going 4 wins, 3 losses on their road trip. So they went on the road and they won 4 games. In St. Louis, splitting the series 2-2, and then going into Philadelphia and winning 2 games. By Miami standards, awesome. Good job, okay? You didn't exactly have a superior week as far as wins, only going 4-3, but you went on the road, you went above 500 for the week, and you know what? That's a successful road trip by any standards. If you can go on the road and win half your games, and then you win well at home, you defend your home court, that's a recipe for success in any league, in any sport. So, home games aside, the fact that they went on the road and they had a successful week, good job, Miami. Coming in at number 25, the San Francisco Giants. The Giants, unlike Miami, had a slightly below average week, and they also went on the road. They went into LA, and now this is a perennial rivalry between San Francisco and LA, but you've got LA, which can be most closely equated to the Tampa Bay Lightning of the NHL, in that they're just winning all the time. But we also have 1,000 more games in the NHL, so it's a lot harder to win like every single game. Having said that, they go into LA and they drop 3 out of 4. They still get a game, which shows that the rivalry still means something. They still are able to beat the powerhouse LA Dodgers in one of the 4 games. Granted, it's not great. You would have preferred a split, but at least you got one. You didn't get swept out. So you take your positives where you can. Then they go into LA or into Arizona and take both games. Now, the fact that they were, it is what it is against the rivalry with LA. But going into Arizona and winning 2 games, good job. You took on a team that has outperformed you most of the week, most of the year, and you took both games. Excellent work, Giants. Excellent work. For a team that I've been talking about having a bunch of rookies that need to get developed and a bunch of veterans are past their prime, and even with Bumgarner on the trade market, you're still holding your own with your some of your divisional games. LA withstanding, you go in against your divisional opponent in Arizona and take care of business. Excellent work, Giants. Coming in, number 24, the Seattle Mariners. This is a team that is trying to find ways to fall in the power rankings. They haven't moved this week, but I've seen their performances are just unimpressive overall. As a result, they've stayed in the same spot the last couple of weeks only because the rest of the league here, the rest of the bottom feeders aren't helping them go farther because they're just doing worse. Seattle had a above average week, going 4 wins, 3 losses, having home games, dropping 2 out of 3 to the Kansas City Royals, and then winning 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. The fact that they didn't sweep Baltimore shows they need some work. No offense, Baltimore. You got one. Great job. From Seattle's standpoint, yes, you did essentially what you needed to do, taking it 2 out of 3. But when you have an opportunity to try and make up some ground and try to establish some leverage, and you go into the worst team in baseball and you can't even sweep them, you need some work there. However, on the flip side, with Seattle dropping 2 out of 3 Kansas City, it's not a divisional game, so it doesn't carry as much weight, but you're still not taking care of business. You more or less, you got the Sunday win last week, I get it, and then you went up 3-3 the rest of the week. It's very, very average, very, very mediocre. Again, I would like to have higher hopes for Seattle. I just don't. Their performances are very much where they are expected to be. Not because they can't do better, it's just that they don't show better. Coming out of 23, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Same spot as last week. They had a decent week, a pretty good week actually. In 5 games played, they won 4 out of 5, going 4 wins, 1 loss. At home, splitting games against Detroit. Then at home, taking both games against San Diego. And of course, winning your last Sunday's finale. Now, this is an interesting team and a fun team to watch because you never, as I mentioned in previous videos, you never know which team's going to show up. Is it going to be the team that has to settle for a split against Detroit, who in of itself is not a great team, or is this going to go in? Are they going to be the team that welcomes in the San Diego Padres that are trying to contend for their division, who are trying to fight their way up against LA and make a playoff spot, and take out both games? So this team with which I always find fascinating. Are they going to be the team? Which team is going to show up that day? Having said that, they don't move a spot this week, but I would like to see them show some more consistency in the good team that shows up, and a little less consistency with the bad team that shows up, and see if they can rise their star a little bit. Coming in at 22, the Chicago White Sox have had a below average week, winning 2, losing 3, and only 5 games played this week. They also had a road trip going into Chicago Cubs and into the Texas Rangers, splitting both the Rangers and the Cubs games. For a road trip, having a very, very average 2-2 week, if they were a stronger team, I would say a little bit under expectations. But for a team that needs to find their identity and needs to push something together in order to make a run, I'll call it all things equal here, really. A 500 road trip is not a bad thing, but it's not a great thing. So it's just sort of a very average thing, really. With them dropping their season finale last Sunday, they went on to have a very, very 500 week. Nothing to write home about, nothing impressive. But they also didn't lay an egg either. So they're treading water, and who knows if they're going to find their way. But for this week, they didn't bomb, they didn't do great, they're just very average. Coming at 21 to round off the bottom 10 of our rankings here, and teams that are struggling to find their way and or are outright rebuilding, the Washington Nationals are in the same spot as last week, despite the fact that they had an excellent week. They welcomed in the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves, two divisional rivals, two teams that they're chasing, and they not only held their own, they owned their divisional rivals. They take out Philadelphia 3-0. They sweep the series, and they welcome in the Atlanta Braves and go 1-1. And of course, they win their season finale last Sunday. All in all, that is a phenomenal week for a team that has not shown that kind of promise much this year. That is hats off to you. Clap your hands. Yeah, hats off, clap your hands. Great job, Washington. The concern I have here is that you are 2 games under 500, you're in third place of your division, and you're chasing both Philadelphia and Atlanta. You did an excellent job in showing where you stand by going in against the teams you're chasing in your division and doing well. Now, you have to follow that up, okay? Going into next week, keep it going. Build the momentum. Keep showing what you can do. Because you don't want a great week like this to be for naught if you just flounder afterwards. If you show a great match against your divisional rivals and then you just nothing after. This is a long season, and if you're going to make it somewhere, you have to be consistent and go on runs and show what you can do. Okay? So, that covers our bottom 10. Now we can get into some more interesting teams here. Teams with whom are jockeying for position, who are trying to avoid the cellar, trying to break in the top 10, and finding their groove. Why do I keep saying that almost halfway into the season? Because runs can come at any time. It's only too late in like August, September to make a run and to make something of yourself. And with the trade deadline coming up, you never know if a team is one piece away or one event away from turning things around. It happens almost every year. You just don't know which team is going to pop and which ones are just going to be like, okay, I've given everything I got and I'm just done. So, starting off this middle round here, number 20, the New York Mets. The Mets have had a below-average week. They're in fourth place in the division. They went on the road against the Atlanta Braves and the Chicago Cubs, and they had a very average week, going 3-3 on the road trip. It's for I have higher expectations of lower teams who have very average road wins because they don't do you any favors going 500. At the same time, I also don't knock them because at least you didn't, as a bad team, at least you didn't blow it on the road. New York had an average week, and I'm kind of torn between whether to say you need to do better or just to let it slide because it was road games. Because you went to get in our divisional game against Atlanta Braves and you dropped 2 out of 3, I got to give you the green apple on that one. But because you went into Chicago, you took 2 out of 3 because it's a non-divisional rival, you try and average out your week. I would have been happier to see the reverse for New York, because if you can take 2 out of 3 from your division and then drop 2 out of 3 to a non-divisional rival, it definitely helps you more that way because of how important the divisional games are. Having said that, they dropped their season finale last Sunday, leaving them 3-4 in the week. I kind of, I don't think it was as strong as I would have liked to have seen out of them. And their performances, we did drop them 2 spots from last week. I don't want to see them drop into the bottom 20. I think they have a lot more potential than that. At the same time, I need to see it on the field, the map. New York, really, I need to see it on the field. Coming in number 19, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, Arizona had the largest drop of all teams. The largest climb was 6, the largest drop was 8. Arizona had an abysmal week. They didn't have the worst because they didn't play 7 games this week. But that aside, they had a completely over 6 week and their home games. I mean, you're welcome in divisional rivals Colorado Rockies and divisional rivals San Francisco, and they floundered the entire week. That kind of thing will definitely drop you into 4th place and definitely drop you 8 spots on power rankings. They had a brutal week. Yes, Colorado is a very strong team. They are trying to contend here, and they have had some very, very strong weeks, strong performances throughout the course of the season. But San Francisco is not the case, and yet they still fell 2 games and with the season finale this Sunday. They've had a rough week. It's one of those things where, if it's not losing streaks and winning streaks, neither one lasts forever. You want to limit the damage and right the ship, get a win in there somewhere, wherever you can, and then figure things out, get some momentum going on. This week they had an awful week, and they paid the price for in dropping 8 spots. Coming in number 18, the San Diego Padres. San Diego rose 2 spots from last week after having a gold standard week of 4 out of 6 games. They won 4, lost 2. They welcomed in the Milwaukee Brewers, swept the series, and they went on the road and dropped 2 against Pittsburgh, while also with the 4th win being last Sunday's finale. So, with that, neither series were division rivals. So, on that note, it doesn't have as much weight. At the same time, this team that was in the top 10 the first quarter of the season, and now they're trying to find their way back up. And when you sweep Milwaukee, that is a great statement to make in trying to reclaim your spots in your division and on the leaderboard. But then when you go into Pittsburgh and you drop 2 games, yes, you run into a Pittsburgh team that showed up those days. I get it. Kudos to Pittsburgh for that. From a San Diego standpoint, those are games that you should have at the very least split. Road or not, should have at least split those, and they didn't. So, because they had a good series against Milwaukee, they rise 2 spots over last week. Let's see what you can do next week. You're back up to 1 under 500, 38 and 39, and I'm expecting to see your star rise at least up to here towards the end of the season, if not breaking the top 10. We'll see what happens. Coming in at number 17, the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati, catching my breath here, rose 5 spots this week. They are number 4 in the division, and why did they rise 5 spots and be at number 17 despite being 4th in the division? Because division rank alone does not set the standard for where you are against the rest of the league. There are weaker divisions, there are stronger divisions. This week, Cincinnati had one of the best weeks of everybody. They didn't have a perfect week, but going 6-1 out of 7, they had an extremely good week, and that's why they get to rise 5 spots. They welcome in the Houston Astros, a powerhouse team. They sweep them out of Cincinnati. They go on the road to Milwaukee, also a very strong team, and they take 2 out of 3. Oh, and by the way, Milwaukee's a divisional opponent. And they take 2 out of 3 on the road. Woo woo! Go Reds! Awesome! For a team that most of the season has been trying to find their way, they killed it this week. Awesome. This is a team which, with your anybody you're going up against, does not want to see you right now. They want to see you drop a series before they come and deal with you. At the same time, momentum really is only as good as your starting pitching. Going 6 out of 7 this week means their rotation is on fire, okay? I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the season finale against Milwaukee. We'll see what happens. They went 1-1 against Milwaukee. I want to have 2-1. But was it a 4-game set? Doesn't make sense. I think I might have had a little bit of typo on my notes here. Apologize. But they at least went 1-1. I saw that they lost yesterday. I saw they won the day before, so they at least 1-1 against Milwaukee. They had a phenomenal week and a very impressive week. Of all the teams I thought that would have very strong weeks, I did not peg Cincinnati as one of those teams, so great job, Cincinnati. Coming at number 16, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Also in 4th spot, did move a spot this week, and I granted that while you have a team in 4th place in the division that's so high on the board, it's all relative here. It's cumulative points, so they have definitely earned their way to be here, and if they're in a particularly strong division, heck, you've got the Texas Rangers that are climbing, you've got the Houston Astros that are a powerhouse. With the division like they're in, being in 4th place and being middle of the board may seem a little out of place, but at the same time they have earned their way to be there, despite where they stand in their division. They have a slightly below average week, winning 3, losing 4, going on the road against Toronto, and then going on the road against St. Louis. They went into Toronto, they took 3 out of 4, they won the series. Now in a 4-game set, it is very difficult to win, let alone sweep a 4-game set. Most 4-game sets, statistically, you're going to have a split somewhere. Win 1, what have you, or win 2. It's usually split. So the fact that they were able to take 3 out of 4 against Toronto, whether it shows that they would have at least gotten 2 out of 3 in a 3-game set, because they did take 3 out of 4. So they had a very, very strong set against Toronto, despite what you want to say about how poor Toronto is. They still won the games, and no matter how lopsided a matchup might be, you still have to win the games. Look at Baltimore. They won some games despite being the worst team in the division, preventing that team from sweeping them. So, having said that, they go into St. Louis and they drop both games. Granted, stronger competition shows they're not quite there yet, hence 4th place in the division, but they're also got 115 points over the course of their season. So, good work against Toronto, not so good against Seattle or St. Louis. Let's see what you can do in the coming weeks. We are approaching the halfway mark next week, so we'll see how that shakes up for Los Angeles. Coming in number 15, speaking of competition against LA, the St. Louis Cardinals come in number 15. The Cardinals are up 2 spots from this week after having a very good week, winning 5, losing 2 against the Miami Marlins and the Los Angeles Angels. They split the 2 games against Miami, and on that behalf, because Miami started off horrible, but they're starting to show their mettle, I would give them a hard time again for their games against Miami, but then again, what am I going to do? Ride on Philadelphia for also losing to Miami? I mean, Miami had a good, solid week. So the fact they got a split is not great, but you kind of, you take the 2 games, you brush yourself off, and you move on. Seattle, St. Louis then goes in against the Los Angeles Angels, and they take both games. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to sweeping off the dust and moving on. They went ahead and took on the Angels and took care of business, winning both games. Coming in number 14, the Colorado Rockies, with whom was the first team to have an entirely undefeated week in the league. Has not really slowed down. There are 4 games over 500. They're not a powerhouse, but they are contending. They're in second place in the division. They won 3, lost 3, going into Arizona and sweeping the Diamondbacks, and then going into LA and getting swept the first 2 games of the series. That shows to me that this is a team that is trying to contend. I'm not expecting a whole lot of Colorado when you're going up against the LA Dodgers, because they have been just killing it all year. I can't hold it against you because they are going against a very strong team and in their home park. But the fact that they went into Arizona and took care of business, I give them a round of applause. Great job, Colorado. You did what you gotta do. You took care of business, and you are really showing you are fighting for the playoffs here. Coming in number 13, the Philadelphia Phillies. My, how the mighty have fallen. They've dropped 6 spots, and if it wasn't for their team, I would have said they would have had the worst week of the whole week, getting 0 for 6. They tied Arizona for having one of the worst weeks of any of the teams. It is really not that common to have completely undefeated or completely defeated weeks. Unfortunately, we've had one undefeated team and 2 completely defeated teams. Philadelphia being one of those, going into Washington, getting swept, coming home while playing the Marlins, and dropping 2, plus the season finale on Sunday. I'm sorry, Philadelphia fans. I feel for you. These are divisional games, and it was really, really hard to watch those games from a Philadelphia perspective, because you want so badly of your team to show what they can do, and then they, for various reasons, whether it's pitching, whether it's fielding errors, whether it's lack of hitting, whether it's a combination of all the above, they had a rough week. They had one of the worst weeks in the league this week, and as a result, they paid the price for it in dropping 6 spots. It's one of those things where, okay, this happened. How are we going to respond as Philadelphia here? What we're going to do is we're going to take care of the series finale against Miami, get the win there, and then we're going to go and show what we can do next week. We're going to get our act together, get the pitching, hitting, and everything else going on, and pretend and wipe this as a memory. Coming in number 12, the Milwaukee Brewers, with whom were listed previously as a powerhouse team up there, have fallen a bit. They're down 3 spots from last week, winning 2, losing 5, going into San Diego, dropping 3, then welcoming them in the Cincinnati Reds and dropping 2 out of 3. They had a bad week, and every team goes through this. Every team has bad weeks. Nobody is perfect. And it's just way too many games in season to have that much perfection. Honestly, the best record was like 52-25, and even they dropped 25 in the game despite being the best team in baseball. So it's one of those things where, okay, yes, you've fallen a few spots, you're down in a row, you're now in a position where you're jockeying to get back into the top 10. The reality of the matter is that despite your performances, you haven't fallen too far down. You're still within striking distance to get back into the game. You're in second place of your division. You can still catch the Cubs, and you got over half the season left to go. So bad week. I'm sorry, but now it's like, okay, let's forget this, sweep yourself off, and get back into it next week. Coming in number 11, the Chicago Cubs are down 3 spots because they also had a bad week. When we talk about winning series, they didn't. They won their series finale, but then they welcomed in the Chicago White Sox and split the 2 games 1-1. And then they welcomed in the New York Mets and dropped 2 out of 3. So in a 6-game set, they've won 2 again and lost 4. They had a bad week, but you still maintain your number 1 spot in your division, being 6 games over 500. As a result of a bad week, you drop 3 spots. It happens to the best of us. You can very easily get back up here. You have a very good team, and you're in number 1 spot. So the fact that a number 1 team in their division would be in the middle row is a little bit surprising. But again, a lot of things happen during the course of a season. You kind of enjoy the games for what they are, and watch how teams respond to stuff. Do they pick up the pieces and move on, or do they let this keep them down? I think they're too good of a team to stay down for long, so we'll see what happens. So, heading on through the first 20 teams here, teams that are jockeying for position, teams that are trying to find themselves, teams that have fallen, teams that have risen. These are the teams with which you're not going to see a lot of coverage on ESPN or Major League Baseball, because they're only interested in the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top 10. This is where things are exciting. This is where everyone loves to tune in. Where does my team stand? Are they a powerhouse? Are they riding the horse into the playoffs here to fight for a championship. We shall see. But let's go ahead and get into the top 10 and have some fun, shall we? Coming in at number 10, the Boston Red Sox. Boston's up 2 spots. They managed to climb into the top 10 for the first time all season. You knew they would do it. They're still in third spot of their division, but it shows you when 3 out of 5 teams in a division are in your top 10, that is a super strong division. Oh my goodness. Is the American League East a strong team? I was going to say the A word, but I don't know who's watching, therefore kind of converted my words last second there. They had a very solid week, winning 4, losing 2, going into Minnesota, taking 2 out of 3, welcoming the Toronto Blue Jays, and splitting the first 2 games. While you would have expected them to sweep Toronto, it's a divisional game. It's a divisional rival. The fact that they're probably going to win the series finale today against Toronto is what I expect to have happen, and it'll take 2 out of 3 for that series and move on. You've had a very strong week. Having won your series finale on Sunday and then taking care of business on the road against a team that has been killing it all year in Minnesota and a team that's trying to establish identity and get experience for its players in Toronto. So awesome job, Boston. You made the top 10. Everyone feared you would. Now look out, Tampa and New York. Here come the Boston Red Sox. Coming in at number 9, the Texas Rangers are up 1 spot. They're in second place of the division, had a slightly below week, winning 3, losing 4, welcoming in the Cleveland Indians going 2-2, and welcoming in the Chicago White Sox and splitting the series 1-1. Neither of them being divisional games, doesn't shake at this level. I don't. Yes, divisional games are important, but winning games period is important. You need to show the league where you stand. You're not only competing for your division, but you're competing for everything. So Texas goes in and has a 4-game set against Cleveland, splits a series. Great work. Cleveland's no slouch. You haven't seen them yet. They're a good team who are fighting for first in their division. They're fighting for first. They're not in first. And then you go ahead and take care of business against the Chicago White Sox, who aren't a great team, but definitely have the ability to knock their teams around with it when they show up to play. Coming in at number 8, the Cleveland Indians, up 6 spots, broke into the top 10 after trying to find their way in the middle row the last couple of weeks. Broke in the top 10. They're in number 8. They're in second place in the division, and they had a very strong week, winning 5, losing 2, on the road against the Texas Rangers and at home against Detroit. Now, splitting a 4-game set on the road against the Texas Rangers is everything you want to do as a road team, because fundamentally there's too much risk going in there and dropping a series, 4-game set. But if you can split a series, a 4-game set on the road, you take that any day. A win is awesome, but the splitting a 4-game set on the road is definitely where you want to be. That's like your standard protocol for road games in a 4-game set. Then, of course, they take 2 games out of Detroit and will probably sweep the season finale on Sunday. So this is a situation where you go in against a divisional rival who's having a rough year, and you smack them around. You take the first 2 games. You do what you gotta do. You win the games you're supposed to win, and that's exactly what they did. Great job, Cleveland. Coming in at number 7, the Oakland Athletics. Oakland is up 6 spots, also new to the top 10. I love the parity. I love seeing teams coming in and out of the top 10, especially in the middle of the season when you are trying to determine, are you buyers or sellers? Do you have a playoff run in yet or not? They are not. They are in third spot of their division. So the fact they're up this high, despite that divisional rank, is kind of surprising. Same time, their point total has earned it. Awesome job, Oakland. You're up to number 7 after a strong week of winning 5, losing 2, welcoming in Baltimore, welcoming in Tampa, sweeping Baltimore, taking 2 out of 3 against Tampa. You did exactly what you have to do. You held your own at home, and you beat up on a bad team, and you took 2 out of 3 from a good team. That's what gets you wins, and that's what gets you rising in the power rankings here. Awesome, Oakland. Well done. Well done. Coming in, number 6, the Atlanta Braves. Same spot as last week, number 1 in their division. Had a solid week, winning 4, losing 2. Going into, welcoming in the New York Mets, taking 2 out of 3, going on the road against Washington, taking 1, and splitting the series there, season finale today. This is a team that lost the game that Keuchel started, but their rotation still held their own and still showed we are the Atlanta Braves. Hear us roar, or in this case, whatever. So they're in first place. They are rising. They are doing a phenomenal job. They're at 45-32. This is a team that now their entire division is chasing after eclipsing Philadelphia and then showing a strong week while Philadelphia did not. They're starting to show some lead over their division. We'll see how that turns out, but great job, Atlanta. Great job. It's been fun watching you perform. Especially with all those rookies, really, wow. Great player development there, seriously. So this brings us to our top 5, our big top 5. Coming in, number 5, the Tampa Bay Rays, who didn't move any spots this week and had a poor week going into New York, getting swept, then going to Oakland, and dropping 2 out of 3. This is a team that has epitomized the opener. Granted, they still have Blake Snell and they still have Charlie Morton, phenomenal starters. But when those two are starting, they've coined the whole opener thing there, and it's worked very well for them. Except for this week, in which they go in divisional rival Tina Chase, and they go in a half game back, and they get swept out of town. Then what do? They go into Oakland and they drop 2 out of 3. Rough week, rough patch. Well, what you do here is you have a very good team. You know you're a few games back now of New York, but you sweep off the dust and you move forward and you go after your next series. So you didn't drop any spots this week, which despite having a poor week, and you pick up the pieces and go forward. I mean, Blake Snell getting kicked out of having a short start of his career is very uncharacteristic, uncommon. It doesn't happen all the time, and probably won't happen very often. So we'll see what happens in the next run through the rotation. Coming in, number 4, the Houston Astros. And I'm so sorry to the Astros fans because they take the coin for the worst week of any team in Major League Baseball this week, dropping 7 straight. Who would have saw that coming from the Houston Astros? They go into Cincinnati and get swept out of town. They go into New York and they drop the first 3 games on a 4-game set. It was a rough week for Astros fans, and I'm so sorry. But no team wins them all, and all teams go through a rough patch. Yes, we're still waiting for LA to have their rough patch, but they've had some rough games. Having said that, they have a very deep lineup. They have some pieces on the IL. They have a very strong rotation. Had a bad week. It is what it is. You take it for what it is. You put the 7-game losing streak in your rearview mirror. You get a win in there. And Verlander going on Sunday. You have an excellent chance to cap off the rough week with a series finale win and go into next week charging. So we'll see what happens. And I'm so sorry, Astros fans. But on a silver lining perspective, at least with being only not moving a spot on your power rankings, your strong season and your powerhouse overall team did not suffer too much on power rankings because of having an abysmal week. Having said that, let's get into the top 3, the best teams in baseball. And rounding up that list is number 3, the Minnesota Twins. Number 1 in our division had a subpar week, winning 3, losing 4. Going to Boston, dropping 2 out of 3, welcoming in Kansas City, taking 2 out of 3. You did what you had to do as far as taking 2 out of 3 against divisional rivals, especially on the road. Good team or not, you still won the series, and that's what's important, especially against the divisional game. You go into Boston, and you drop 2 out of 3. It shows that you don't go to Boston. You welcome in Boston. It shows that where you are against a rising star, a team that you knew was never going to stay down all year. And they show you that you have some holes to fill. That as good as you are, there's still room to improve. And you take that and you run with it. You use that learning experience and you apply that to the rest of the year. You're still a powerhouse team. You're still very, very strong. You're still primed to take the division in a walk and see what you can do in the playoffs. So keep up the good work, Minnesota. Coming in at number 2, the New York Yankees. The same way Houston had the worst record of the week, the Yankees had the best record of the week. They welcome in Tampa Bay and they sweep them out of town. They welcome in Houston and they take 3 out of 4 with the 4th game today, and they cap off their series last week on Sunday, winning that game, having the best record and the first team since Colorado to have a 7-game sweep of the week and a 7-game streak for the week. They are now on 8-game streak at this point because they won 2 games against Chicago. But having said that, they had a phenomenal week and such a strong week that even with Gleyber Torres and Gary Sanchez out of Sunday's game, they still take the week, and that's without Aroldis Chapman closing. They have a very, very strong team. They still need work on pitching, but their pitching was dominant this week. Masahiro Tanaka having a 9-game or 8-inning shutout win. James Paxton and CC Sabathia both having very strong starts for their standards. They've both been struggling this week or this season, but they both came out as very, very strong showing this week. They did everything they need to do to win games, and they had a very, very strong week. They came out guns blazing, and they took care of business. Great job, Yankees. I'm sure Yankees haters hate the fact that they did so well this week, but again, this is the first time. It probably won't happen every week. And the key is you don't need to sweep every week. You need to win 2 out of 3 every series, and they did that for quite a while, which got them into the top 5. We'll see what happens going forward. Yankees fans are thrilled to death about this and are looking forward to seeing what they can do against Verlander today and riding this as long, as hard as possible while their management looks for a new pitcher to shore up the rotation. Now, coming in at number 1, the best team in baseball, surprise, surprise, not really, is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They are just killing it this year. They're taking names, they're kicking butt, and shredding it. Even when they have bad series or bad games or bad weeks, they are still far and away showing the best of everybody. It's hard to argue with their performance. And they're going to ride this into the sunset and go into the playoffs. Hopefully, they don't get too much confidence and they take care of business in the playoffs, but we'll see. In the meantime, the Los Angeles Dodgers had another very, very strong week, winning 6, losing 1, welcoming in San Francisco, taking 3 out of 4, welcoming in Colorado, taking 2, season finale today, and they show why they are number 1. They just find ways to win games. It's almost like, when do they lose? I mean, they've dropped 25 games all season, the fewest of any team, so it does happen, but not very often. They've had an incredible season, and they are our #1 powerhouse. Congratulations, Dodgers. Way to keep up the good work, especially as we're hitting mid-season next week with the All-Star game coming up, trade deadlines, and everything else going on. You're showing that if you even are buyers, you don't need much to improve on how awesome they've been. So that's our power rankings for this week. Please leave your comments and thoughts in the section below. Tell me what you thought of where your team ranks, who should have been higher, who should have been lower, and what you think of the overall status of your team and the league as a whole. I would love to hear all about it, and I'll respond as often as I can. If you just happen upon this video, please hit like and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel. For any new subscribers, welcome to the channel. We definitely appreciate your viewership here, and we love to provide this content to you every single week, and hopefully in the future even more often, as I try to get videos in when and where I can. Having said that, thank you all for watching. I appreciate everything, and have a wonderful week. Enjoy the games. Have a great day.